turned off right after.
I've had my Mark V Deluxe since April. It's chambered in 340 Weatherby Magnum. And since then, I've been really looking for a load that just is a hammer, something that I have 100% confidence in, something that, well, beats most other rifles. So let's talk about this load that I finally have found. The load you saw in the beginning of the video was with this 250 grain bullet, this Accubond. If I were to shoot anything bigger than a 250 grain, I would go to cup and core. I don't see the need to have it bonded for anything heavier. In fact, I would not want, say, a 300 grain Accubond in this cartridge because it would top out at like 2,700 feet per second. I think it's just going too slow for a bonded bullet to expand properly. So why the 250 grain? You know, it was funny enough at my local dealer, it was the cheapest Accubond to get. Ideally, I really wanted to try out the 225 grain, but they were a bit more expensive, probably because they're more popular. But I eventually did get the 225 grain, and I'm still in the process of trying to find a good load for the 225. Up to this point, it does seem like my specific rifle likes the 250 grain more up to this point. All right, here is the 225 grain on the left and the 250 grain on the right. And with the Nosler Accubond bullets, the BC difference between a 225 and 250, there's hardly any difference. So I'm really hoping that I can find something good with the 225 because I'll get a lot flatter trajectory with almost the same amount of energy. And this is something the Real Gunsmith has mentioned in 338 hunting cartridges, that there isn't a huge step up or advantage to go from, say, a 225 up to a 250 with like the 338 Win Mag and 340 Weatherby, just because you're not getting that much better of a BC bullet. So you're just getting a flatter trajectory with the 225, and you're within 100 foot-pounds of what the 250 grain offers. So you might be asking, why then am I sticking with this 250 grain? Why am I doing a whole video on this 250 grain load? Well, I think it's kind of the exception. Let me show you the numbers we're getting with it. Let's go ahead and look at the ballistic chart. Now, one thing to keep in mind, I put this ballistic chart at the elevation I would be hunting at, so the energy and the drop is going to be better than at sea level. This 250 grain Accubond has a BC of 0.575. And yep, I got 2,975 feet per second, which gives you a whopping 4,914 foot-pounds of energy. This thing is incredibly powerful. All right, so we'll just take this out to 400 yards. Bullet's going 2,500 feet per second, so definitely good enough still to expand. And wow, 3,528 foot-pounds of energy at 400 yards. Your drop, only 22.5 inches. This has less drop than a 6.5 Creedmoor. It really compares really well with like a 300 Win Mag or a 7 Rem Mag. Now, I'm never going to use this rifle as a long distance cartridge. It's not what it was really ever set up as. And this bullet's not the ideal long range bullet. But out to 600 yards, wow, you're finally below 3,000 foot-pounds of energy, 2,963 foot-pounds, and 64.3 inches of drop. This is why I'm very much considering keeping this load. So in order for me to make the switch to the 225, I have to find a load that's going around 3,130 feet per second to come close to matching the energy of the 250, which still at 3,130, it still doesn't match the energy. All right, real fast, I just want to show you what I have to get with that 225 grain to even come close to the ballistics of the 250. Again, I have to push this 3,130 feet per second, and it's still not hitting 4,900 foot-pounds of energy. But out to 400 yards, yeah, this is going to be 2.5 inches less drop, so that's pretty sweet. 4.79 MOA. Energy, though, 3,483 foot-pounds, so it's still less. But they're real close. They're within like 75 foot-pounds of energy. So if I can get a good sub-MOA load going this fast with the 225, yeah, I'd probably switch from that 250. What I thought it'd be fun is to get some perspective on just how crazy this load is for my 340 Weatherby. We're going to use that 250 grain Accubond at 2975. This is going to be all at 9,000 feet for all of the cartridges I'm going to be comparing them at. 4,914 foot-pounds, and again, we've already gone over this, but 3,528 foot-pounds at 400. 22.5 inches of drop. Up and coming, very popular 30 caliber Magnum, 300 PRC. We're going to use hand-loaded data, a 212 at 2950, which gives it almost 100 feet per second more than the factory ammo velocity. We're at over 4,000 foot-pounds of energy and almost 4,100 foot-pounds. At 400 yards, the bolt's going 2556. 3,075 foot-pounds of energy and the exact same drop. Wow. Almost 500 more foot-pounds in a 340 Weatherby. 7 PRC. This obviously is one of the most popular Magnums right now. A 175 grain. We're just going to make an assumption you can get 3,000 feet per second. You are almost at 3,500 foot-pounds of energy. Bolt's going a little faster. We are shooting a lot higher BC bullets than that 250 Accubond. And your energy is only 2,659 foot-pounds. And 21.4 inches of drop, so a little less drop than 300 PRC and 340 Weatherby. But wow, the 340 Weatherby has almost 1,000 more foot-pounds of energy at 400 yards than a 7 PRC. 300 Win Mag. Let's not forget about the most popular 30 caliber Magnum. We're going to use a 180 grain bullet at 3150. Most hunters are going to be shooting 180 grains out of a 300 Win Mag anyway. Your energy is almost 4,000 foot-pounds at 400 yards. Yeah, almost 2,900 foot-pounds of energy, so 2,888. Since this is a lighter bullet that's going pretty darn fast, it is pretty good drop, only 19.5 inches of drop. 7mm Rem Mag. Now we're only going to shoot the 168 grain. We're going to make an assumption it doesn't have a faster twist, but we're going to be shooting that at 3,100 feet per second. Your energy, 3,585 foot-pounds of energy at 400 yards, 2,663 feet per second, and 2,646 foot-pounds of energy. It's basically identical to a 7 PRC. And 20.1 inches of drop. Now, the YouTube darling, as of right now, I'm seeing a ton of videos on how the 6.5 PRC is the best do-it-all cartridge. Oh, I'll just say I agree to disagree. 143 grain ELDX at 3,050 feet per second. You are looking at 2,954 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. At 400 yards, we're at 2,186 foot-pounds of energy. Drop-wise, 20.9 inches of drop. It's flat shooting. Funny enough, though, 300 Win Mag and 7 Mag are flatter shooting. You know, I can already see some comments coming about, oh, who cares about the power of a 340 Weatherby when shot placement is most important. And I agree. If I can't get this to the vitals, it doesn't really matter that I'm flinging a huge bullet at almost 3,000 feet per second. I understand that. The other argument is who wants to subject themselves to 340 Weatherby recoil? I guess my response to that is, guys, I'm not a soy boy. I can handle some recoil.